and Instagram. Okay, we are live
on Facebook. There you are. Hi, Facebook.
Hello, Facebook and Instagram. Bree with Apollo here with my fabulous co-host and friend, Melissa McDaniel. We are getting logged in on Instagram. So we'll be getting started here in a minute, but it's Beyond the Steps Day. It's Friday. That means we're here for Beyond the Steps. We're chatting with you about topics that impact the dance industry today. In particular, it's going to be how does your mindset change as you transition from a professional dancer to dance educator? And what do we need? What shift do we need to make in our mindset to prepare for that? We're talking with Candice Houser today. So pop your questions on either platform in there for Candice, and we will make sure we get those answered for you by the end of the hour. We're just waiting for Melissa and Candice to join in here on Instagram. I don't see you all yet.
I am working on it. Technical. I'm
Instagram. Behave Instagram.
Instagram. Do not do it today.
Candice, now I cannot ask you. There we go. There's Melissa. Okay. So y'all share this conversation if you can with people that may be interested. We would love to hear from you. Get those questions ready. Pop them in the comments in the chat on either platform, and we'll answer those for you. Okay. I can invite Candice. So I don't. Candice, can you? I cannot. So Candice, can you request to join?
Yeah.
I clicked on it. It's not showing me.
You have to hit the camera. It's the camera with a plus sign in the middle of it and just say request to join. Hi, Ryan. Nice to see you.
Hi, Ryan.
There you are. Okay. Gotcha. Hello, Pauline. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you. And Instagram, for anybody on Instagram right now, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear everything okay? Give us a thumbs up if audio is good. We tend to have audio issues on Instagram.
Yes, on
Instagram. Can check. Testing. Let me see. Okay. I'm getting delays from... I'm going to check one more thing here for Instagram. Melissa, hang on one second. Because we're getting a delay. Yep, so network is good. Okay, I lost Candice.
On Instagram?
Yeah.
We're coming, guys. Welcome to Beyond the Steps. It is Beyond the Steps Day. It's 2 p.m. We are logging everybody on, making sure everybody can stay on. Instagram, we don't need problems today now. Come on. We've been doing well for a while. We'll get started in just a minute. All right. Do we have Candace back on Instagram yet?
Not yet. Happy Friday, everybody, by the way. It is Friday, March 4th. I cannot believe we're in March already.
I know.
Like February flew by. I was telling Melissa, it's my son's birthday tomorrow, and we have to make miracles happen today because it's been a very busy time. So we're going to make a miracle happen between today and tomorrow to have a great birthday day. Oh, there she is. Okay. Hi, Candace. Okay, we're back.
Yes, we're back.
Let's do it.
Yes, let's roll. Welcome, everybody. It is Friday, March 4th, as Marie just said, and This is Beyond the Steps. We are going to have a very lively conversation today, one that I don't think has been had enough. What is the mindset shift that you need to make in order to move from a professional dancer to a dance educator? I think there's some mindset there that needs to happen. There's some emotional that needs to happen there. There's definitely some teaching practice changes that need to happen. If you have any comments or questions, please pop them in the chat. I know that there are a number of you who are making this transition or who have made this transition and have a lot to say about this issue. So please, please, please share to your dance teacher groups, share to your personal pages, and make sure that we have as many people as possible in this conversation. We're talking to Candice Houser today, professional dancer and dance educator and friend. So I am definitely looking forward to hearing her perspective and hearing yours. So Bree, want to tell them a little bit about Candice?
Yes, Candice Houser is a native of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and began her classical ballet training in Russia and with people from Russia and the Ukraine. The classical ballet, classical. So, and thoughts and prayers to the people of Ukraine right now as well. Miss Houser furthered her study and training in dance at Wilson College, where she majored in dance performance with a focus on ballet. Upon graduating, she danced with several companies in many principal roles, soloist roles, and original choreography, and has continued to do so throughout her career. She now resides in Charlotte, North Carolina, and is coached by Dr. Andrew Carr of Washington Ballet. She performs as a guest artist and freelance dancer since moving to the South, and has performed for various choreographers and companies in Florida, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Candace, welcome. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you so much for taking the time. Really? Yeah. I feel like that's such a common thing. I feel like we don't talk about that enough, and we're gonna talk about that and explore that this hour. But it's not necessarily just because you dance, you want to teach, and just because you teach doesn't mean that you want to dance. And I think the expectation for people that don't know any better is that they're one and the same, and that if you can do one, you can do the other. And when really that's probably not the case oftentimes, right? So, did it, or at what point did you realize, okay, this is something that I want to explore, this is something that I want to do? Or did it feel kind of like a forced decision for you, or was it something more organic that happened over time? Ah, okay. Yeah. Wow. Oh, wait, Candace, I'm going to pause you real quick because you're muted on Facebook. So unmute yourself on Zoom so Facebook can hear you. There you go. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, continue.
There you go.
I felt when she reached out to me, I was really like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I'm really passionate about dance and I love dancing, and there's no performances right now. So how can I still be relevant and stay in the dance community? And what is the purpose of taking all these classes 6 days a week if I'm not, like, to be honest, I wasn't doing anything because there just wasn't any work. I mean,
Right.
and so many of us professionals have faced that the last 2 years. So I was like, yeah, I'll teach, I'll give it a try. And I have found that I'm far better at it than when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a large part of that has to do with 6 years ago, I broke my foot. And I had done such extensive soft tissue damage that it took me almost a year to take a full class and full point class again. granted, I made the conscious decision that I'm going to work back accurately. I'm not going to abuse my body. I'm not going to force myself to come back quickly. To the extent that I was dancing guest artist with a company in Florida, and I was looking for a new job anyway, and I packed up and I came back to North Carolina because they were like, well, you can do Nutcracker, right? I'm like, I can't even fit my foot in a point shoe.
Right. No, I can't do Nutcracker. I'm like, what do you mean?
What do you mean? So I took my time and I worked back correctly because I wanted to still keep dancing. I didn't want just another 6 months or a year or 2 years of dancing. I wanted to dance as long as my body could. And I think that's changed my perspective as a teacher because essentially I've had to relearn as an adult how to dance. Whereas when you learn things when you're younger and your body just does it, you don't necessarily think through how it does it.
Yeah.
And I think there are so many dancers that they start when they're 2-3 years old and they've danced their entire life. And especially if they've never been that catastrophically injured. And then they just start teaching. They don't necessarily know how to tell the student to, no, you need to use this muscle versus this muscle. That muscle is a turning muscle. So you don't want to use it. You want to use the muscle on the backside of your leg to let your leg naturally rotate out. Because they just, when they're younger and they're a lot looser, their body just does it naturally. So they've never had to think through how to explain that to someone.
Yeah, it's really hard to explain the concept of pain and injury to kids whose bodies are really resilient and they haven't they don't have the wear and tear on their bodies, quite frankly, at that point. And so it's really hard. And we find that with Apollo too, like trying to educate people about injury risk management and starting when they're young. It's much easier to understand that concept when you already have the pain and you want it to go away, right? So I imagine all around that's very challenging. Very, very challenging.
Right.
Candice, tell me about the transition from teaching from a psychological and emotional perspective. I know you were already injured, so there probably was some already type of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do there? But was there any type of transition that had to happen from, a psychological or emotional standpoint as you made that transition?
Yes. And it's funny you asked that because I know the first class that I taught in August, I had, it was more of an assessment as a new teacher coming into a new studio. I just gave class and went home. And then the next week I came back and started working on specific things that I wanted the group of dancers to do. And I remember coming home that night and just being so dejected because my coach is able to teach and go around the room and give every single person in the class individual corrections, because even though we all have the same bones and muscles, we're all put together ever so slightly differently. So what someone needs to work on is not necessarily what the entire class needs to work on. And just I came home and I was like, well, I guess some people are just better at it and I'm just not good at it. But I have realized over the course of the last couple of months that as you get to know your students and you get to know their bodies, you are able to pick that up. So it still is a journey today for me. But that very much I was so dejected at the beginning of the year. I was like, I'm just not going to be that great. And I think that dancer mentality of how we want to be perfect, that I felt that I was just not going to be a great teacher or as good as some other teachers
that you've already had.
Yes.
I mean, and that's the thing, because dance is we just learn from the people who taught us. Like I look at my kid, Candace knows my kid, she teaches my kids. But like I look at my kids, I'm like, okay, they dance like me because they've learned from me. Right. And then when I see them learn from other teachers, I'm like, okay, they dance like them because they're learning from them. So when you see your teacher, you have this idea of your teacher that they're so great and they're so wonderful and they do everything so perfectly. And you're like, I don't do it like that.
Yeah,
I don't. Why can't I do it? But you have to do it like you. You're a professional. You're a teacher. You have to grow into your own as an educator.
You do.
For sure.
And and I think it's a wherewithal. I don't think everyone has that. Because I really
Right.
don't think everyone is in life just as
Mhm.
not everyone's born to be a high school or elementary school teacher. Like, we're not all teachers.
I
We're just
100% agree
not.
with that. Yeah. And I think it's
So
hard. You have to be honest with yourself about that too. You know, like just because, I mean, just because I've never thought of it doesn't mean I can't do it, but do I want to do it? Right. Because
Mhm.
that's half of what
right.
teaching is like, do you want to do this? You have to want
Mhm.
that it has to be come from somewhere. Right.
Mhm.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if any of you watched Uprooted. It's on
Oh, I
HBO
see it. I haven't
Max.
watched it yet.
Oh, I mean, it's just grazing the surface of the history of jazz. Obviously, you
Mm.
can't fit the entire history of jazz
Hmm.
in an hour and a half or 2 hours, however
Right.
long it is. But it's so good, and and I knew most of the jazz history because I'm a nerd. I
Mhm.
love ballet and I love all dance. Like,
Mhm.
I will watch YouTube for hours. Like, I've never outgrown that love. Like,
Mhm.
my fiance asked me, he's like, well, how do you have that passion for dance and how is it translatable? I'm like, it's not, because I've wanted to dance as long as I can remember. Like, I
Mhm.
Yeah.
just love it. But in Uprooted, I forget which one of the individuals they interviewed said this, that dance, not codified dance, but dance
Mhm.
is older than language. It is,
Mhm.
and
It
it comes
is.
from within, and it's our natural way of communicating. And I
Mhm.
really think that's true, whether you're in the classroom, at a high school dance, in a club, or in a very codified institution where it's very, there's a syllabus and everything. I think it really is still, whether it's ballet or jazz, um, it's passion. It's
Yeah.
from
Mhm.
inside of you. And
Mhm.
as I've gotten older and as I've been on this journey of teaching, now I have mentored for many years young dancers who wanted to pursue a professional career. And I think it's very important that we do educate, really educate, not just teach them how to point their toes and kick their legs
Mhm.
to their ears, really educate the dance history, how to maintain and cross train appropriately, how to
Mhm.
stretch properly,
Yes. Amen.
um,
Mhm.
and not just sit in your shadow at night. That's not going to do it.
You're right.
That's
No.
terrible.
Right.
Please don't do that.
Right.
But also anatomy, like, and really having an understanding of the body.
Mhm.
I feel that it's really important that we teach this, and that, when things like World Ballet Day happen, that encourage students to watch things like that, because even if they don't want to pursue dance professionally, which is completely fine because it's not for everyone,
Yeah.
I think that's our future generation of watching the art. Like, those are our
Mhm.
future patrons, and that is how we
Mhm.
keep dance and
It's a
dance
great point.
performance alive and relevant.
Great point.
Mhm.
Great
Exactly.
point.
So, you have this wonderful idea, and we definitely agree with it. That's one of our tenets on the show is, we need to make sure we teach them full comprehensive dance education,
Yes.
which includes being a great dancer, a great steward of your body, a kind person, a wonderful, community contributor to the dance industry as a whole. But as we go into different studios in this day and age, everybody doesn't teach like that.
Yeah.
And that can be tough. And then coming from the professional world, you have students who are on different levels and have different ability levels. So how important is it? How important is it to adjust your expectations when you're coming from the professional space to the teaching space? Like, how do you have to realize it's different dealing with students, and is that challenging for you?
It is. I mean, it's different teaching a group of professionals versus a group of
Mhm.
children. Absolutely, for sure. I think one of the biggest difference is, even though not all of them are there to pursue it professionally, and and I think this is where it gets tricky. That some educators think everyone's
Mhm.
there to learn, and they all need to be professionals, and if they're not professional, they need to get out of the class. And I think that's completely wrong. I don't think
Right.
that um, even if it's ballet, if they just want to pursue it for themselves, even if they don't want a future in it, that's completely fine. And I think one of the biggest things of bringing, as a professional dancer, coming into the classroom, especially with my 20 plus years of knowledge of good experiences and bad, because we all know that 20 years ago, the dance industry was very different from today. That I don't think students necessarily know their self-worth. Two, that even if they don't want to dance professionally, there are other jobs within the dance industry.
Right. Yep.
And I think it's really important to reiterate that. I mean, because now that there's physical therapy, there's sports science, sports anatomy, so working with dancers and having a dance background to work with dancers at a professional company is really helpful, because dance is unlike any other athletic activity out there. It's not like football or baseball. It's so different. So having that background in dance and wanting to go into physical therapy for dancers really gives you a leg up over someone who's in physical therapy and happens to find a job with the dance company, because they just don't know. And then there's also, you might really enjoy sewing. And I don't think enough students understand that costume mate, especially at some of the larger companies, they actually have costume shops. Or props. Like, I don't think they realize the vast opportunities within the dance world. And I know I never did. That was never communicated. It was either you just point your toes and
perform. And then you get too old to do it and then you stop.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I was very fortunate to train with Nadia Pavlenko, who had come up through the St. Petersburg School, had the Vaganova syllabus. And one of the biggest things that is so different from Europe versus the US is these large schools with syllabuses, and it's defined. I mean, granted, there are downfalls, like only certain body types get in. However, with the syllabuses, they recognize from the get-go that it is a weeding out program, but they also recognize and realize that they need to educate not just so you can perform. That in the process of educating dancers to perform and get to a company, they are also educating dancers to teach, to be the future generation of teachers. And you can see this when you go on YouTube and you see yearly exams from the Vaganova School or RAD, that, there's these dancers with their feet and their legs all up here. And then there's a couple in the back that you're like, they're slightly not as good or impressive, but they've made it that far because I bet you if you sat down and talked pedagogy and hit dance history with them, they would blow
everybody away.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that's so lacking in the United States. We don't educate on that. And I think those professionals, those of us that are professionals that have taken the time to gain that education, and you have the ability to teach and the want to teach, that is really important, because that passing that information on and teaching anatomy to young dancers it's so important for them to learn correctly and learn how to take care of their body and to know the history of where something came from.
Well, and we're going to talk about there's flip sides of that coin, right? But to your point, and I agree with this, I experienced this as well. Like, I was one type of teacher before I moved out to LA to dance professionally. And when I left LA, I was such a better teacher, director, educator, because that experience in LA for 7 years broke me down. I broke down every single piece of my training and built myself back up to be better, stronger, more knowledgeable. And what I found was when I went back and crafted the program that I really wanted to craft after all of that, I was able to pick and choose from all of my experiences, the things that I really believed in, that I believed would make my students stronger, and craft a program that was kind of like pulled from all of my experiences, the good parts of it, right? And I was able to leave the bad parts. And I think to a certain point, when you've got a professional who's lived all of this experience, to have that person be able to come and share those experiences in a positive way with their student body. I mean, when else are those students going to get that knowledge? You know, that not everybody does that track and not everybody has that experience. So I completely agree with you there. Now, on the flip side of it, for those joining on Facebook and Instagram, I'm Bree with Apollo Performance Wear, here with Melissa McDaniel, friend and social justice advocate. She's the creator of Turning Point Dance Creations. She's also a dance educator. And we're chatting today with professional dancer and educator Candice Houser about how to properly make the transition from professional dancer to dance educator, which is not always easy and smooth, right? So,
Right.
you know, on the flip side, we have all the great things about that you can pass on as a professional dancer, but we all know that there's a lot of trauma in the dance world, especially lately. There's a lot of things coming to the surface. There's a lot of stories coming out. It's shocking, to say the least, at times. And you know, we're in a situation, like Candace said, especially here in the States, where there is no certification or standardization to become a dance educator. And we have lots of educators teaching the way that they were taught. Oftentimes, that information or that method is outdated. It's rooted in harmful traditions. It's harmful, right? I mean, let's call it for what
You're
it
right.
is.
Call it what it is.
On top of that, we're hearing stories on how professional dancers are abused and traumatized throughout their career in various ways by various organizations. And we're not talking about one person, we're talking about systems and organizations that have been in place for years, whose hierarchy is abusive, and we know that these things happen. We also know from this show that to heal from your own, you have to heal from your own trauma so you don't pass that trauma on to someone else. And so, you know, when you're working with children, being cognizant of these things is really important, because you may have somebody that wants to do good and wants to teach, but maybe they have some baggage they haven't dealt with yet. So is there a situation where you would advise a professional dancer not to make that leap to dance education, no matter how much they want to rethink that path? When is it not a good idea, in your opinion?
I think that dancers that make the assumption that, you know, I'm a professional dancer, and so the natural course of action is to be a teacher because I'm a dancer. I think that gets really dangerous. And I can personally, as a professional dancer, have taken some of the worst classes I've taken are from professional dancers
Yeah.
who decided they were going to teach after their career. I think the question to ask yourself as a professional dancer, that, you know, when you get to that point of what am I going to do next? Because we all get there, and it doesn't matter if you're in the corporate world. Sometimes we just decide to change our career. So when you get to that point of transitioning out of performing all of the time, I think it's best to ask ourselves the hard questions and be really honest with ourselves. Is this what I'm cut out to do?
Yeah.
Is this, am I being beneficial? You know, there are many teachers I've taken class from that are professionals that, you know, it's all about them as the teacher. You know, they're still performing. And are you able to put that down? Because if you're not able to put that down, yeah, you're doing great. You're making money and you feel good about yourself. But I think as a teacher, just as in business, when you mentor someone, for them to go further than you did is the greatest
Right.
compliment, and really shows just how good you are. I know from working with Nadia Pavlenko that she would talk about how in Russia, certain teachers are so successful, like the students are known for being that person. They're, oh, well, that was so-and-so's dancer. And that is the biggest compliment of being a teacher that's able to turn out professional dancers and turn out well-respected professional dancers that are just gorgeous and technically proficient. So I think if you're transitioning to dance because, well, you've retired from performing, so that's what you're going to do now, I think you need to really take a step back and have an honest conversation with yourself. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you may not have the answers or know what you're going to do if you don't teach. And I think because there are other career choices in dance, whether it's being an artistic director or a director of a school, but I don't think it's a natural path for everyone, because I think it is very detrimental to come into a classroom and be there for you and show everyone how great you are and how high your extension is. I mean, it's one thing if you need to make a point, but for every class, for you to be the star of the class as if you're still performing, that's not helpful to the kids, and it's not good for their morale.
Yeah,
and it's not just kids. Like if it's an adult class, the adults don't like it either.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody
No,
does.
they don't.
If there's any hint of competitiveness, like if you feel like you might be feeling like you're in audition competition with the children that you're teaching, you might want to reconsider.
That's a big red flag.
Yeah,
for sure.
like that's a big red flag. Like if you're looking forward to the next audition and you're gonna beat them out of this job, then this might not be where you need to.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anybody that is I wish I would have done this regardless sooner, but I encourage anybody that is transitioning from professional dance to dance educator to consider getting YPED certified and going through that training, because I think it really puts things into perspective on what your expectations should be with the students, and maybe would put in check any harmful processes, procedures, behaviors, whatever you want to call it, that have been learned in the professional dance world, and puts things into perspective on why those things might be, some of those things might be harmful. You know, on the flip side, I'm all flipping back and forth here all over the place, but how important is continuing dance education when it comes to being a educator and a choreographer? I know you're still performing, and I know there's so many people out there that are a kind of dual, you know, they're doing performing and they're doing teaching. And here's the thing, I've been on both sides of it, but from a director's standpoint, I can tell you that oftentimes it is more, it gives me a better peace of mind to know when somebody's fully dedicated to teaching, because they're not splitting their time. I know as a director, I'm not going to have to, you know, be changing someone's schedule around at the last second, looking for subs. But on the other side of that, it's you know, a professional dancer that's still performing is out there experiencing it. They're getting those real world experiences, the training, they're getting top-notch training that they can bring back to your students. So there's definitely pluses and minuses to both in that conversation. But do you believe that continuing to take class and perform is important, or is it for an educator, or is it something that divides your attention and takes away the focus required for dance education? Does it make it too much about you and not enough about the kids? What are your thoughts on that?
So I completely, you as a director, I understand your viewpoint.
Right.
Me as a teacher, I feel it's beneficial to myself and the students that I am still a working professional and teaching students, because one, I know what's current in the industry.
Yeah.
I'm not teaching some archaic value that I learned 10 years ago from some teacher. I'm still working, training, current with what's going on within the dance community at the major companies of the world. I am not just watching World Ballet Day once a year. I'm constantly in conversations with other professional dancers, my coach. And as a professional dancer, you do develop a network of other friends that are dancing with other companies. So what's going on there? What are the views? What are the morale? How's the hiring going now that we've just had COVID? And then from a personal perspective of still performing, as someone who is still performing, I work with all different directors. And because dance is oral tradition and it is taught orally, we don't have a book. There's no book on the shelf to grab and reference. How I say something and how Melissa says something, it could be the same thing, but we both said it entirely differently. And my personal experience, especially when training, you had a teacher tell you correction for years and years and years, and then you heard it from someone else in a different manner, and finally the light bulb went off. And so,
that's a great
and I
point.
feel like when you work with different choreographers still, or still going and taking class, whether it's going to Chicago, going to New York, just on a random work trip, you end up in a city like Indianapolis and you take class and you meet professionals, you're going to get different perspectives. And sometimes it's not always great. You come out of class and you're like, oh, I never want to take their class again.
Right.
But that's also part of being relevant and cognizant of what's going on. And how to relate, then take that. And this is where being cognizant and knowing what's going on is being able to take all of that information that's coming in and regurgitate it in a positive manner to your students.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And being able to share that with them. Because I know personally, I was like, I want to be a ballerina, very young and idealistic, and really had no idea the work that needed to go into it. But I never worried about what the work was, which is good and bad, because I definitely did some unhealthy things, because for me, all I wanted to do was dance. So I was willing to do anything and everything to dance, which is great and bad at the same time.
Right.
So,
and I think that's advice that you can bring to the classroom. That's part of that professional advice that you bring. It's like, hey, so I did this. You might not want to do that. You might want to go in a different direction. And I definitely agree with you on the, being in the professional world and in the teaching world is so helpful. I'm no longer in the professional world, but I am in the judging and adjudication space. And that is so extremely helpful. They feed each other. Like, I can give advice on critiques, and then I can bring things back that I see.
Oh my gosh,
classroom.
You can tell when you get a judge that has not danced in
years,
20 some years. Like, you can tell when you're on a panel with somebody who has experience and is up on what the industry, what it is right now, and that they get it. You can hear that in the comments and the critiques for sure.
So Candice, what advice would you give professional dancers who are trying to make the transition to dance educator?
I would suggest continue at your own education. So I have not yet, but I am seriously looking into, I know the Whites up in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania do a Vaganova course. It's the best Vaganova course outside of Russia. And then ABT syllabus, well, it's not a syllabus, it's a certification program. I'm highly interested in doing that as well. I think just like any educator in school, the school systems, you should continue your education.
100%.
I think that's where teachers get in a rut when, well, we did this 20 years ago. I'm like, well, it's not 20 years ago now. And I think there's other certifications out there as well, like the injury prevention certifications, the strength training, cross training certification, all those certifications that if you were to be a fitness trainer for like the Panthers or the Royal Ballet, you need those certifications just to work there. You're not just a college degree, you need additional certifications on top of that. So I think pursuing those certifications, because when I first started teaching, I had a conversation with my coach, and he was like, well, the most important thing is to make sure you don't injure them. Everything you do, you need to do safely. You can do anything you want, but the most important thing to do is make sure you're not injuring them and be very cognizant of not injuring them. And I really think that's important. So being able to, if you don't have a college degree in dance and you've never taken anatomy, go seek out an anatomy course. There's so much you can do on your own without having to get the college degree in dance, whether it's certifications or ABT or Vaganova, or I know RAD has a program that you can, outside of England, that you can take. Like, go and educate yourself. There's even like summer programs where it's focused on education and pedagogy, and really learn that, so that you are teaching not just what you were taught. Make sure what
Right.
you were taught is correct and
Right.
relevant.
Exactly what you were taught, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have someone that came right out of Vaganova, the St. Petersburg Choreographic School, with 8 years of that education, but not everyone does. And I have taken quote unquote Vaganova courses from people who didn't go through that system versus someone who did. And I'm just like, what you're teaching.
Right. Yeah. Like, what's happening here? This is not.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? Is like we have no way to tell, and that's, I think, it's an industry-wide problem for parents, for kids, for teachers, directors, studio owners. Like nobody, like there's a little bit of like blind faith and trust that goes into dance education these days, of like, you really don't know if what you're learning is correct. Like there's nobody who sets the rules, like who sets what that is, so you really do have to just try to be knowledgeable and do your research. But it's a great point. And I love that you said, don't rely on teaching what you were taught. Make sure what you were taught is correct. That is such a great thought to leave people with. So let's talk about, before we go to homework, because I think this is really an important part of the conversation, let's talk about teaching different ages and abilities. I have seen over and over and over with professional dancers who are teaching on the side or transitioning to dance education, where they need to supplement their income, but they're not able to teach or don't want to teach younger dancers. And so again, throwing in different viewpoints, I think it is important to recognize your strengths and weaknesses as an educator, right? Like if you're somebody who's going to be super strict and can't tone it down for a 3-year-old class, don't teach a 3-year-old class. But to be employed at a dance studio, in a dance studio environment where you have an entire evening, I mean, doing a schedule for a studio is freaking hard. It's like a puzzle. It is like, you can't bring in, and that's what I was constantly running into, is like, I would always ask everybody, well, what are your requests? What is your availability? What is all these things before I sat down to do it? And I would just have this giant list in front of me, and I would have tons of people. I don't want to teach anybody below the age of 7. I don't want to teach anybody I don't want to teach 3 and 5 0.
I need to be there for at least 3 hours.
But
I need to be there for.
But I need there for at least 3 hours a night, or I need 3 full nights. Well, but you don't want to teach half the kids. You can't, or don't want to teach half the kids that go here. So what am I supposed to do with this, right? So it's a huge problem. It's a very real problem. You want to have instructors who are versatile. You want to have instructors that are capable of teaching multiple age groups, who are reliable, yet you still want people who can bring real world experiences to your kiddos. So is it better to be, as an educator, somebody who's transitioning in this way, is it better to be honest about your capabilities and say, this is what I can do and am willing to do? Or is it important for educators to work on that and figure that out before transitioning to dance education? Because at the end of the day, it is about the kids first and foremost. I get that everybody needs to supplement their income and everybody needs to make money, but we are doing that. Like, when you transition to dance education, to most aspects, it's about the kids, and it has to be about the kids first. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, much like we would never ask an elementary school to teach a high school class, or vice versa, that the same applies for dance. I think people need to be open to teaching a wide variety of age groups, and be very bluntly honest. Like, I just can't handle 3-year-olds. Like, because you are going to find professionals who actually, that is where they excel, and that's what they're good at. Or dancers who have graduated college with a college degree in education. Like, they might not be the best ones to teach your upper class that are wanting to go on to be professionals because they've never been a professional, but they'll be great at teaching your younger kids. And then you are going to have your ones that are more versatile, that can teach a wide variety of age range. And I think as a professional, this is my own personal, I prefer the high schoolers. Like that is my age range. I can teach the younger ones. It's a stretch for me. It's where I feel less comfortable. And I think sometimes, just as doing different choreography, not every choreographer's choreography feels good on your body. Like, and those are the most nerve-wracking shows where you're going on stage and like, I don't feel like I have this in my body, and I have to think through this entire performance. It's not just going to go out there and knock it out. Like those are the ones that would give me, I don't get nervous when I perform, but they give me a little, because you can't drop it. You have to stay so hyper focused on those performances. So you, as a teacher, if you've really taken the time to be like, this is what I want to do, this is about the kids, will be willing to allow yourself to have some of those younger classes. And if there really is just like, I can't do 4-year-olds, like I can't do toddlers, like, and be honest with that up front. Be honest with that when you're doing the interview, when you've been asked to teach, be very honest about that. Don't take the teaching job and then tell them 6 weeks later, like, oh, I don't do this age group. No.
Yeah.
If it,
100%.
It's just like taking a job at like, whether it's GE or Siemens, if there is something you don't do, you let them know in the interview. And it should be no different in the dance world. There's nothing any different about running a company, whether it's a dance company or running a Fortune 500 company. True. It's still business at the end of the day. And I think we need to do better at that in the dance world, of treating our teachers like professionals.
Yeah.
They are
but I think at the same, I think it would be fair to say, because I totally agree with what you're saying. Like it is important to be honest, because we are working with children. And so nobody's gonna win in that case if you're doing something that you don't feel comfortable doing, and then you're put in a class with kids who feel that discomfort. Right. But like, I think it's fair to say, be honest. However, if you are going to, as an educator, go, this is what I can do, it's also fair to go, well, I can't put all these demands on about how many hours I require and how many classes I need to be teaching, because it's just it's not physically possible with so many of these schedules and multiple rooms going on at the same time, and transitions and all the things. So I think that there's a compromise in there for sure. I feel what you're saying.
And I think that can be a humbling compromise for professional dancers too. So when you come in and you're like, but I've danced on these stages, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you have, but you can't teach 3-year-olds. So I'm going to need you to.
Well, but so communication, like Candace was saying, communication is so important in that regard on both sides. It's important for the educator to come in and say, this is what I can do, this is what I feel comfortable with. And then as a director, it's important for me to go, this is what I need. This is what I need. And if that person doesn't fit that need at that moment, hey, I really want to fit you in here. Would you be willing to teach one 5-year-old class if I can get you the rest of what you need? It's like having those conversations and being open and being communicative. I think you get there a lot faster, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's on the studio owners and the directors as well to, I'm hiring a toddler teacher, creative dance, ballet 1, versus I'm hiring ballet 8.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes people fall in your lap too. Like, I know there have been a couple times where people would just like fall in my lap that like, I don't need this right now, but God, like people, I'm gonna move.
Yeah.
Hey, you're gonna fit here.
Yeah. I'm making this work because I don't want, you never know when that's gonna cross your path, or if it is again. And so you figure, what can we do here? And I think communication is just really, really important. So thank you for that, Candace, because I agree.
So Candace, we like to give homework here. We are a homework giving organization, speaking of pedagogy. So we like to give homework, and we like to give our listeners one thing that we want them to work on between now and next week to make progress in this area. So if someone is thinking about making a transition from professional to teacher, or is already in that role and is wondering how they can make their teaching practice better, what is one action that you want them to take between now and next Friday to get better in this area?
I would go back to what we talked about in the transition. Start researching programs and courses.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, not just research. If you're already at a studio teaching, is that studio willing to help pay for it?
Mm-hmm.
Are they buying into you continuing your education? You know, start that conversation. I wouldn't make a demand, but like, hey, wouldn't this be a good idea for all of us to invest in this opportunity? Research certificates, research what kind of training certificates are out there for injury prevention, and maybe pursuing them. If you've never taken an anatomy course, research with the local, it doesn't have to be a major college, just a community college. If they have an anatomy course, just, you know, sign up for it. Is really research, how can you improve yourself? Watch YouTube even, you know, there's things, and you can also give your own students homework, you know, and by giving your own students homework makes you do homework.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
This
You have to know
child,
what they're coming back with.
I want you to focus on your shoulders, and then send, because we do learn visually. So send a bunch of YouTube videos of a dancer that, like, I mean, Marinella Nunes, her shoulders do not move when she dances. Like, her back stays so still. So you do your research, so for you to help your students. I think if you can research other dancers that are just have fantastic technical prowess. Sarah Lamb is one of them. Stephen McRae is another. And to pass that on, and then how can you invest in yourself?
Yeah. And I want to go back to what you said about the, you know, the training and, you know, having the conversation, can studios and organizations pay for some of this continuing ed? And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are going to watch this, that are going to groan and go, there's no way.
No way.
And
right.
It's a really muddy topic, because at the end of the day, oftentimes dance educators are independent contractors. Not everybody is W-2'd. It gets muddy. They can teach at multiple places. So who's responsible for paying for that? But at the end of the day, I want to encourage everybody, if you are an independent contractor, your education, your continuing education, your certifications are an investment in yourself, in your business. And it's almost a necessity if you're working with children to keep kids happy, healthy, safe, and dance. So, you know, consider doing that. You know, there's definitely a lot of programs out there that are online. Have those conversations to see what opportunities are available for it to be partially or fully funded. But whether or not it is, it's still really, really important to consider.
Right.
So just keep that in mind.
And the flip side of that is studio owners. I know cash is tight, things happen. I know I've been in this business for a very, very long time, but consider thinking about what can we do to build up budget or fund some of our teachers to be able to do these things, and to bring this into the studio.
Yeah, it sets your studio apart. Like, can you imagine if studios started taking that seriously and doing that, like what that would do to the quality of our, you know, the training in our industry? Like, it'd be amazing. But you know, there's so many, we could have a whole nother show about that. And, you know, the pros and cons and the pluses and minuses and how to do that. But
there are grants out there for studios. Some cities have those arts grants for that dance education. Usually it's tied in with some community outreach, but why don't you want to do community outreach? Why don't you want to reach as many people as possible with dance? So there are grants out there. So that's another thing you can research. And if your studio is not willing to support you in your endeavor, it is a tax write-off.
Yep.
There you go.
For independent contractor.
It's an investment in your business. It's an investment in your business.
My 1099 peeps.
Yeah.
It is an investment.
Yes.
And tax time is coming. Consult your tax professional. We have some homework. We have some homework too. We always do. It's the same homework. Have you done it yet? You done your homework yet? I sure hope so. If you have, put it in the comments. But if you haven't, we're going to put it in the comments and chat for you to take the STEPS initiative that is now, oh my gosh, probably going on 3 years old.
Yeah. Two
and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably around that time. 2 years old. Yep, 2 years old. So I remember that. It has chock full of classes, courses, things, training modules that you can take for free. You do not have to have any money to take these training. What? Free? You're giving us something for free? Yes, it's totally free. So please take that initiative. Bree is dropping that in the chat. Right now. I am dropping it in the chat here on Instagram. You can take that. You can go to apolloperformance.com to be able to find that as well. YPAD, Bree mentioned that earlier in the show. YPAD has certifications galore that are super important, especially in the day and age that we are living in now. We want to protect our children as much as we possibly can. You get 25% off your certifications. There you go. Now we get you a discount. We gave you something for free. Now we're giving you a discount. I mean, it's just abounding. 25% off with the code Apollo25, Apollo in all caps. So you visit the YPAD site and you get that 25% off when you use that code at checkout.
Yes.
Candice, you have Instagram. I'm not sure if you have Facebook. Can people follow you? You have just been a breath of fresh air today.
Absolutely. So my Instagram is just at Candice A. Houser, and then you can find me Candace. I think it's Candice A. Houser on Facebook as well. So yeah, absolutely. And I welcome the conversation. I think it's very important as educators and leaders in dance, especially in the United States, where it's just kind of the Wild Wild West.
It is. It is the Wild Wild West.
That we try to be as positive and train the next generation of dancers as positively as we can.
Yeah, thank you so much, Candace, for being here, for sharing your experience. It's been, like Melissa said, a breath of fresh air today, a really great conversation. I hope it's given all of you something to think about and ponder. And you know, we're always looking, we're already planning ahead to next season. So, you know, as we think about what that next season looks like, think about some of these things and what we can implement differently to enhance our studio culture and make it a more positive, safe, happier place for our students and for our teachers. So important. We're back next Friday, March 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern, same time, same place. We're talking about what the most common ways are that racial bias shows up in our teaching practices. And we're going to be chatting with James Ford, who's the executive director of the Center for Racial Equity in Education. So another big, heavy episode, but it's so needed. And I think in the spirit of continuing to evolve and continuing to make ourselves better, this is a really important, needed conversation to have. I know I'm going to be listening, doing a lot of listening next week and learning. So we hope you will join us for that. You can find this episode and all of our episodes on Apollo's Facebook at Apollo Performance on Facebook. Make sure you're following, and also TPDC on underscore or TPDC underscore on underscore IG. The YouTube channel, Melissa has them all linked there as well, but make sure you're following both Apollo and TPDC. We love building this community with all of you, and we look forward to seeing you every single week. Make sure you do your homework. Make sure you work on it. Make sure you think about the things that Candace talked about today. And until then, until next week, we hope you continue your journey beyond the steps. We'll see everybody next week, and have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Candace.
Thank you.